This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon, and joining me on the phone for another episode of Mitch Marathon Month is guitarist Mark Zavon. He has a new album out called, Mark Zavon. And I first got to meet Mark years and years ago when he was a guitarist for Stephen Pearcy. And he was phenomenal, an absolute monster player, and stayed friends with him over the years. He, of course, formed a band with Rex Brown of Pantera called Kill Devill Hill. The band is still working on a new album, which should come out soon. So we'll get over to Mark here in a second, but it is July 2nd, 2019, and in my inbox on my email, we got news that The Cult is releasing a 30th anniversary of Sonic Temple, which turned out interesting. And of course, July 2nd is the day that Alice Cooper released Hey Stupid. And today, my interview downtown in person is Mickey Curry, drummer for Ryan Adams, who happened to have played on Hey Stupid, but also Sonic Temple. And so let me just quickly tell you. So this 30th anniversary of Sonic Temple is going to be a 5 CD deluxe edition, and there are songs like Messing Up the Blues from the Firewoman single, Eddie Ciao Baby, did I say that right? From Acoustic, there's demos for Medicine Train, New York City, American Horse, Sun King. Then there is live stuff, Automatic Blues, I should say, American Horse Live, Medicine Train Rock Demo, Soldier Blues, the Werman extended version, just an incredible amount of material. So 5 CDs for this deluxe edition. It will, of course, be out shortly. Well, in fact, it'll be out on September 13th. And if you haven't checked it out, go back and check out my Billy Duffy interview from about a month ago. I thought it was fantastic. I thought he was just an absolute pleasure to have as a guest. And of course, while you're checking stuff out, you know what's coming. Head over to loudtracks.com/Mitch to pick up one of your Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon t-shirts. High quality stuff. I own a couple myself. Go figure. But loudtracks, TRAX.com/Mitch. And yes, I'm going to do this. If you would care to support the podcast, the PayPal is mitchminute@AOL.com, mitchminute@AOL.com. And if you are a band that wants to send in a Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon jingle, now let's be very clear. It has to say Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon during, the lyrical content or whatever. And the music needs to be original. We can't, of course, copy a Kiss song or a Cult song or an Alice Cooper song and throw Rock Talk over it, because then everybody gets in trouble and we can't have that. But if you do want to send that in, you can also use the mitchminute@AOL.com. And without further ado, let us get over to guitarist Mark Zavon speaking about his new album, Mark Zavon.
We are speaking with guitarist Mark Zavon. He has a new album out called, Mark Zavon, which is a great title for an album. Almost as good as, who was it that had the album called Live? Hey, Mark, by the way, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Was it Grand Funk Railroad, by the way, that had an album called Live? What band was it back in the day that had an album called Live? Anyway, but pleasure to speak to you. It has been a while. We have, of course, spoken during the Kill Devill Hill days, but we have known each other going all the way back to the Stephen Pearcy days and the JRZ System days, right? That's been
yeah, that's right.
Long time. Right. Let me get this straight, and we'll get on to the new album, which I've been listening to. It is fantastic. The playing on that thing is just incredible. The guitar playing in particular. But JRZ System, that was part of Stephen's label back in the day, right? Or no?
Actually, JRZ System was an instrumental band that I had for years before I met Stephen. And then when I got the audition for Stephen, he asked me if I knew a drummer and a bass player, and it was just an obvious choice to have those guys come in and play. So we became Stephen's backing band, and I think that's when we started. I think the first time I met you was we were on that Voices of Metal tour, and we played up at like Pine Knob, and and you were there, and we hung out on the bus for a little while, and it was a lot of fun playing with Stephen, and those guys were a great fit too, and we had a great time together for sure.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Stephen and we'll talk about Kill Devill Hill, but let's talk about what we're here for. This new album, new. It came out November, right? So it's
November, yeah.
Talk to me about doing this all alone, because you have played on some of the Pearcy stuff. You have played, of course, with Kill Devill Hill, which it's always hard to get a new band going out there because brands, man, to establish a brand is really difficult, regardless of how good the music is, to get a name going. So this time you said, the heck with it. Mark Zavon, let me go establish that. Talk to me about first of all, coming together with the songs, but also some of the challenges you face of being Mark Zavon and not being a Black Sabbath or a Kiss or a RATT. I mean, it's difficult.
Oh, it's totally difficult. And I mean, it really wasn't a conscious decision so much as I really had some time on my hands because in the middle of doing Kill Devill Hill stuff, Rex decided to kind of jump off and do his solo stuff. And it took him a while, and we were just sort of sitting around, and I wanted to do something creative and have an outlet. I love to write music. I'm always writing music. And so I had this big pile of material, and I was doing some engineering for Wasp, their latest record. And on a break, Blackie asked me, he's like, well, what are you up to? And I'm like, well, I'm just writing music, not really doing much else. And he's like, well, you write all this music, why don't you just sing it? And I guess I hadn't really thought much about it. And it kind of caught me off guard. And he just sort of looked at me and said, well, can you do it or not? And I don't know if it was the challenge of that or just that I have so much respect for the guy. But basically, that's when I decided, all right, well, yeah, I think I could do that. So I go home and start working on the stuff, and it became sort of a labor of love, of being able to have a creative outlet, that I was missing for a while with Kill Devill on hiatus. So just started pointing myself in that direction and was fortunate enough to start working with some really good people. Brian Tishy played most of the drums. Vinny Appice did a track and had Josh Newell mix it, and Paul Logus master. I mean, the guys that were involved were all top shelf, and I was super fortunate to get them in on the project for sure.
Yeah, you really were. And by the way, I like the way you just go, oh, casually. Oh, yeah, I was working with Blackie Lawless. It's like it's no big deal. Of course, that's a big deal. What
He's
album?
a great guy.
You know what? I did an interview with him last year, and it was absolutely spectacular, I guess, for the lack of a better word. He was so kind and I had heard all kinds of stories about, oh, Blackie has this, and I was like, oh, okay, but he was great. But talk to me then. So the songs that you put together, were these intended for Kill Devill Hill? And of course, just because the hiatus went on so long that you were like, okay, I got to do something with them? Or were these freshly written? You said, okay, Blackie has inspired me to go do this. I'm going to sit down and write 10 songs and let's have a go.
Well, it was a mixed bag. I'll be honest. There was a couple that were earmarked for Kill Devill Hill. The one that Vinny plays on was part of the original group we wrote when we first got together and Jimmy Bain was still the bass player. So, it goes way back. It's just a song that never got used on a record. And a song called Brick by Brick was also going to be a Kill Devill Hill song. But about a third of it was stuff that I had written for other projects, and another third of it maybe, or a little bit more, was stuff that I wrote fresh. So it was just sort of seeing what I had, seeing what I could use. Will this work? Will this, and I reworked some stuff too, things that were a different style and kind of made them more rock, more up-tempo rock style, because that's kind of the direction I wanted the record to go. So I kind of, changed the tempos, changed the feel, changed the vibe, and, did a new version of it so that it would fit with the rest of the stuff.
Did you enjoy the challenge of singing the songs yourself? I mean, listening back to it, do you have cringe moments where you go, oh, because, when I listen to my own interviews, sometimes I go, oh, or is it like, yeah, you know what? I got this. I did pretty good here.
It's tough for me to listen to any of my stuff. I'm not very good at sending myself flowers or anything. You know what I mean? But I don't feel like I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm proud of it. I think it's great, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I want to do more of it. The more I've been playing with some friends of mine, and we've done a couple of gigs, and I want to get out and do some support stuff for some more established acts here coming up. And I'm excited to do it. So the more I do it, the more I think the voice is kind of like a muscle, and the more you use it, the better you get at it. And it seems to be getting better the more I use it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I got to say, there's a song on the album called 3 Days Grace. And, of course, there's a band up here in Canada called 3 Days Grace. So I listened to the song.
Yeah,
that song is great. It is, great band, but great song. The vocal is great. The guitar playing is great. Tishy is just an incredibly solid drummer. But now that you've had that experience, do you see yourself doing a second solo album with you doing sort of everything and bringing in a drummer to handle just that part? Do you see yourself going to Kill Devill Hill and saying, hey, you know what? Maybe me and Dewey can trade vocals on a song. Maybe I can do one, sort of like an Ace Frehley spot and do one song that's just more you, or is like, okay, been there, done that?
I wouldn't close the door on anything. I think, I like leaving all the options on the table. I'd love to do another solo record. I've got a lot more material that didn't get used, for this one. So, I could certainly do another one if the time comes. Right now, I've been writing a lot of stuff for what I hope will be the next Kill Devill Hill record. We've got about 20 songs. There's a bunch of stuff written, and we're just kind of trying to find the right home for it right now. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I'd really like to do that record this year and maybe do that first. But we'll see. Like I said, I like leaving all the options open, and if something presents itself and I can move forward in another direction, I'll be happy to do that too. Yeah. Just so long as it's making music and doing what makes me happy.
So where are we with KDH? Is that a band that is going to move forward in 2019 now? And member-wise, we got Dewey, we have you, still Johnny on drums, and I guess Nico on bass. Is that the lineup currently?
You're exactly right. Yeah, Nico D'Arnisi is the bass player. He's a new guy. He's an Italian guy, an amazing bass player, amazing spirit. He's got great energy, and he's super excited to be involved. And Johnny, of course, from Typo Negative, an amazing drummer and cooler than anybody I know. So, and me and Dewey. And basically, I write a lot of stuff over here at my house, and then Dewey comes over when he can, and, he'll sing on the stuff. And we've got a stack of demos, and some of the stuff's really strong. I'm really excited about it. I really want to get out and do a record, get out and play with that band again, because playing those songs has always been so much fun, and the fans really react to it. I remember when we opened for Alice Cooper, and the beginning of the set, people are looking at us, giving us the hairy eyeball, like, who are you? And then by the end of our set, they got both hands in the air and they're screaming. And so if you're doing that, if you're able to do that, then you're doing something right. And I always felt like we just didn't kind of go far enough with Kill Devill Hill. We kind of just needed to keep going. So I want to do that for sure if I can this year. And like I said, we're looking for the right home for it. We're looking for the right path, to get that record where it's got to go. But just working on the nuts and bolts right now.
Well, listen, EMP and Dave Ellison and Tom Hazard signed your album, so maybe you can give them a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and get them to get Kill Devill Hill on board. But I do want to ask you about this, because having Rex Brown and Vinny Appice, or Appice, depending on which day of the week it is, it's great to have that, because it brings an immediate notoriety to the band, an immediate visibility, and people are like, oh, I want to go see that. But there's also the other flip side of it is like, oh, well, it sounds nothing like Pantera. Oh, it sounds nothing like Black Sabbath. So it sort of cuts both ways. But now that you have these four guys, Johnny, Nico, Mark, and Dewey, what talk to me about sort of moving forward with those guys away from, well, it's not Pantera, well, it's not Sabbath, and moving forward with the band in terms of sound and establishing your own thing with this lineup?
Yeah, well, we were really grateful to have,
of course,
Vinny and Rex involved, because they brought so much to the table, and they've, gone their own ways, and, we're all still friends, and we still talk. And of course we, support all their endeavors. And I really love what they're doing, truthfully, both of them. I mean, the new Last in Line's amazing, and Rex's solo record is awesome. But we've got Kill Devill Hill always had its own identity. And like you said, people wanted it to sound like this or wanted it to sound like that, but it always just sounded like Kill Devill Hill. So now maybe with those guys gone, maybe people can appreciate it just for what it is. And we can just move forward with, the sound that we because it's the same sound. Like the new stuff that we're writing, it sounds just like, you know, the old stuff. I mean, it's still us. I wrote a lot of the riffs and a lot of the, you know, I mean, basically Dewey and I, you know, did most of the writing part, the creative part. So, you know, that hasn't really changed, and the sound hasn't really changed. So with any luck, you know, if you like the first stuff, you're going to like the new stuff. So we're excited to move forward and have people hear it. You know, I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. But I will sort of go back on that. It's just that there is an expectation when you have guys from brand names in there, and so now you sort of have cleared the air, and you just get to be Kill Devill Hill without all of the baggage, and the baggage is both positive and negative. It's not, you know, it goes both ways. Quickly, Stephen Pearcy, talk to me about those times, because you had a chance to be sort of Warren Demartini, you know, on stage for. Talk to me about playing the RATT stuff and some of the intricacies, because when you talk about guitar heroes, we all hear Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix and this and that, and a lot of folks don't mention Warren, but that stuff he plays is intricate, it's complicated, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, he's so underrated. I mean, from that era, he was probably the best, if not certainly one of the best of that era. And I was always a RATT. I was a RATT fan since I heard the first EP when I was in high school. And to get a chance to play with Stephen, obviously, was like a dream come true, getting to play those songs. I already knew most of them came in, and, you know, I'd been playing them in my bedroom when I was a kid, you know, so I knew all the riffs. And it was just a lot of fun to play those songs with him and get to know him, you know, because he's such a pro. I mean, he's been doing it so long, and he knows exactly, you know, like, one night his wireless went out. I remember we were out on tour, and instead of like pitching a fit about it, he just grabbed a cable and he started doing this like thing where he'd sling the cable across the stage and like almost skip rope with it and jump around. It was like he had been doing it for years, and there were these talents, you know, these little aspects to his showmanship that, you know, just were part of his persona, and you wouldn't have even known it because he's been using a wireless mic so long. But the guy was great to work with, and yeah, he's a super cool guy and definitely a part of rock history. And then I was lucky enough, actually, I don't know if you know this, when Jizzy was fronting RATT and John Corabi was playing guitar, John had a conflict, and I actually sat in John's spot with Warren for a couple of shows on some festival dates. And so I got to play the Robin part with Warren on stage. And that was equally as, you know, fulfilling for me as a RATT fan to get a chance to play with to Warren on stage and play those harmony solos and stuff like that. It was quite a thrill. Yeah, he's absolutely a force to be reckoned with.
So I want to talk to you about that, because I sort of remember that, because that would have been going back to what, 2008? Like, I mean, that would have been like a long time ago, right?
It was. Oh yeah.
I sort of remember that going through the news wire back in the day. First of all, talk to me about how that came about, because of course, at that time, well, actually, was Stephen? No, Stephen wasn't fronting it. Jizzy was fronting it, right?
Jizzy, yeah, it was Jizzy's job at the time. And
okay, so
I think I want to say Robbie Crane gave me a call, because Robbie was how I got the initial audition with RATT. I auditioned, the way I even met Stephen was I auditioned for RATT when they were going out with Poison. And I think Kerry Kelly got the gig that time, but Stephen kept my number. And so when he decided to do his solo thing, he gave me a call. And that's how I got that whole connection, was through Robbie Crane. So I think Robbie called me, if I remember right, and then said they needed somebody to fill in for John, you know, because he had a conflict for a couple of dates or whatever it was. And then, yeah, and I didn't get any rehearsal at all. So I fly in right to the first date, and I go to Warren's hotel room, and I sit there with a little micro cassette recorder, and he tells me all the endings, and we go through all the endings and the, you know, segues between the songs and stuff. And then I had to just get up and play the next day. It was a little intimidating, but a hell of a lot of fun.
But that's got to be difficult, because when you play, you sort of have a muscle memory, and so as you're hearing the song, your fingers go to those lead parts, and you're like, no, I got to go to the rhythm parts now. That's got to be an incredible challenge. But I want to know just a little bit about the atmosphere, because at that time, well, in fact, anytime between 1980 and today, the RATT guys are always at each other's throat. But Was that sort of strange? Did Stephen sort of say to you, hey, buddy, where are you going? You're going to the enemy? And did the enemy sort of say, hey, you're Stephen's guy? How'd you, like, was there any weirdness on that level?
Well, there wasn't. I remember Stephen kind of chided me afterwards. He's like, hey, man, you can't be going to the other team. But he was just messing with me. You know, I mean, he knows that, you know, it's just music, man. It's only rock and roll. It's no big deal. And there was at the time I wasn't playing in Stephen's band. You know, he's had his current lineup, give or take a guy, I think for since like 2002 or something, 3. So, you know, there was no real, it's not like I was going back and forth. I hadn't played in Stephen's band in years, and they called me out of the blue because they knew I knew the material. So I just,
Gotcha.
I showed up and played, and it was a lot of fun. I love playing those songs, man. I mean, I saw Stephen was picking a set list on Instagram or something, and I was like, oh yeah, I like that song. Like Looking for Love, like the deep cuts, you know what I mean? Like stuff that's cool guitar parts, cool riffs, you know, what you give is what you get, you know, some cool stuff. But yeah, I'll always be a RATT fan, I think.
Yeah, RATT is a great band. Now, you did mention working on a Wasp album, but what are you doing since, you know, we don't see you as much out on the road? What do you keep your days busy with? You made the solo album, Kill Devill Hill is coming maybe later this year, maybe early next year. What is sort of the day-to-day for you?
Well, I work in the studio, you know, I do a little bit of engineering here and there when I can. I've got a cover band I play with, you know, here around LA, just kind of, you know, keeping my chops up and, you know, doing some singing. That's another thing that's helping me get my voice together is doing some cover stuff, you know, just kind of playing and singing a little bit more on a regular basis, because I never really did that, you know. And so playing in an instrumental band like I did for years, and you know, playing as a side guy or just basically as a lead guitar player, you don't really sing lead so much unless, you know, there's call to do it. And so for me, I'm trying to get my chops up in that realm so that, you know, I can get out and do my solo thing and feel confident, you know, be strong about it. And yeah, it's getting better. And we had a rehearsal just a couple of days ago, and it's like, oh yeah, this is really coming together. So I'm really excited about it.
Oh, that's great. And now, of course, the Mark Zavon album is out now. It is called Mark Zavon. Will there be tour dates? I know you said that you're hoping to get out there, but is there anything already booked that we can confirm and talk about?
Well, we've played a couple of shows here in LA over at the Whiskey and the Lucky Strike, but I've got a support slot thing that I can't mention yet because it's not firm. But another guitar player, friend of mine, who's more established than me, I may be able to do some support slots for some upcoming stuff there. So that's what we're rehearsing for, and I'm hoping it comes together. It's just a matter of, you know, promoters and agents and stuff like that. So we just gotta hammer out the details, you know, the minutia of it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get out in front of some people and rock their socks off.
Yeah, because I have to say, back in the day when I would see you do the RATT stuff, it was just phenomenal. And you listen to the playing on the Mark Zavon album, it is phenomenal. I can't wait. I can't wait. And I can't wait to see Kill Devill Hill. I'm excited about the new lineup, and I'm excited to what it's going to sound like and what the fans' reaction is going to be like, because you put on a show here in Montreal years ago at the Underworld.
Yeah.
What year was that? Was that 20?
That was the last time I saw you, Mitch. I'm pretty sure it was.
I think it was 2012.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was.
We're going out on that first run. Yep.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and you definitely need to get back up here. But there you go. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me, Mitch. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk.